Thanks for joining us for this Zero Waste video series segment. The Zero Waste video series is organized by Waste Free Advocates, formerly Recycling Advocates, an Oregon-based nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering and connecting Oregon communities to minimize overconsumption and waste. With this video series, we are seeking to not only inform folks who are interested in learning about zero waste efforts within our region, but also to connect to entrepreneurial, government, and community advocates to help strengthen our growing network so that we can help each other in growing these positive and impactful practices and infrastructure. Please write in your questions and suggestions in the comments where we're going to be continuing the conversation.
Okay, my guest here is Nicole Bassett. She is the founder of the Renewal Workshop. Thank you, Nicole, for joining us for the Zero Waste video series segment.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about the Renewal Workshop, what we do, how we started, and answer questions and get into a discussion. So I think what's really great is that this is an audience already that cares about waste and wants to see a world where we don't have waste. Probably also an informed audience around the circular economy a little bit and waste management, waste hierarchy, and all that good stuff. So I think to start out, to maybe share a little bit about my background, I worked in the apparel and textile industry for about 15 years. My job mostly was to work in the supply chain and help brands make their products more sustainable. So converting to organic cotton or recycled materials, or preventing the chemicals from getting into wastewater, and human rights and fair trade inside of the supply chain. And really awesome and meaningful work over the years. But one of the things that became very apparent was that in order for the business to grow, there were very limited ways to do that. And the biggest one is that we just keep making more stuff. This really hit me one time when we were discussing the next year's production line, and someone said, oh, well, if we're supposed to grow the business by 20%, then we have to make 20% more stuff. And I just realized, like, oh, even though I'm doing really good work, this is not sustainable. And what I think is really interesting is that in the apparel and textile space, a lot of products that don't have a second life is because of things that we perceive as lost value. So a broken snap in the case of this image here. Really started looking into, okay, what is the root cause of this business problem that we have? And you probably wouldn't be surprised to think that it's because the way we do business today is built on this linear economy, where we're taking raw materials, we're selling them, and we really don't think about where they go at the end of their life cycle. And we're really almost designing garbage, is kind of the sad truth of it all. And textile is even more so, right? So clothing is made up of multiple materials. The sweatshirt's like polyester and cotton, and it's combined together. It's not like an aluminum can or paper or glass where you know the material type and you could actually truly recycle it into something else. The other thing we have is that the businesses we have today, as I said, their revenue grows from making more stuff. So they're not necessarily incentivized to design their products beyond a single sale. And customers are always demanding that things get cheaper. And so there's a lot of business decisions around actually making disposable products. And that may have been fine for a period of time, but this is a report that I really like referencing that Accenture put together a few years ago now, but really looking at on the right-hand side in this graph of like, okay, we can think we can just keep growing forever, but at some point we're really going to run out of the raw materials that we need to make the things that we are making today. And at some point we're going to hit this tipping point, and I would argue we're hitting it now and seeing it because volatility in the supply chain, when COVID really shut down certain markets, the ability of labor shortages in a number of places. There's a lot of reasons why we can't depend on a supply chain that has a lot of variability in it. That's also to say we're really dependent as an industry on the environmental conditions. Most products are coming from, or no, I shouldn't say most, but there's a substantial number of products that come from natural fibers, like cotton, like hemp, like textile and rayon are all cellulose-based fibers. And then of course, the synthetic fibers we're wearing are coming from the fossil fuel industry, so polyester and nylon. So if we're not thinking about the future, we're really gonna get hurt by it. So the idea then is that you get a supply chain and an economy that's really taking into consideration where things come from and where they're going to go next, and we start to build out the whole system that way with this design around that nothing should ever go to waste. Right. So we're designing at the beginning part and saying, okay, how can I use the product again much longer? And then only when it's truly at the end of its life cycle, it's been designed to be broken down and turned into a new fiber, or could be another product that could get used again in a way. So that was the sort of impetus. And then many of you are probably familiar with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and they have these 3 beautiful design principles that help anyone think through, like, how do I create circular systems or circular products? And this idea that we're designing waste and pollution out from the very beginning, again, in the product itself or in the supply chain. We want to keep things in use as long as possible. And we want to be regenerating our natural systems, not just using them up. So when we think about keeping products and materials in use a long time, this goes counter to what a lot of people feel like, well, if I sell you this widget once and you never need to buy it again, that's not a very good business for me. And so there's a lot of resistance to wanting to invest inside of a business model where you're actually creating really durable product. But that's where sort of the vision of the Renewal Workshop came from, is, okay, well then how do we create a business model that allows a brand to create revenue on its product multiple times, thus creating better product in the first place, thus feel like getting out of that linear way and getting into a circular one. So just to explain a little bit about our operations, our customers are brands. So we work with brands like Tommy Hilfiger and the North Face, some other brands like in the home goods sector, like Koyuchi, or in the bike sector, like Velocio, Carhartt, Prana, number of companies where they get products sent back to them already from customers via returns or damages from their, say, wholesale accounts, or from e-com returns or their stores. And things could come back because a customer took it home and washed it and then didn't like it anymore. It could be like customer took it and used it for a while and then was done with it and returned it. The zipper could have broke, the button could have fell off. There's a lot of different reasons why products are sort of back in the brand's hands. And that's that damaged inventory on my little slide here. I don't have a, and then the other thing is brands are starting to ask for their products back. So I may have a North Face jacket that's been sitting in my closet for 5 years and I just don't wear it anymore because I used to really like blue and now I don't. And I can send that back to the brand and I'm incentivized to do so. And then that product becomes feedstock for the company to resell again. So a lot of the products that come back, there's only about 30 or 40% of it that probably is like, could be sold just as is, put it back up on the website. But there's another 40% that needs some kind of attention to it in order to be a functional, useful product again. And so our operations basically extend the life of those products and add value. So we have a factory in Cascade Locks, Oregon, as well as in Amsterdam. And in our operations, we receive everything, we sort the quality, we then clean everything, we do repairs on the product, we quality inspect the whole product again to make sure it's functional. And then it's available for sale. And the brands sell the product then under a new product category called Renewed. So the North Face Renewed is a great example. Customers go to North Face Renewed, they can buy a product at a discount and it's a like new product or it's a reconditioned product. So it might have a new snap or button or something on that. Now the North Face is making revenue from its product a second time. And this allows them to extend the life of the products that they have and also see that there is a financial as well as an environmental benefit that can occur when you resell your products again.
Were most of those getting thrown away prior to your business collecting some of that together, or what was happening to those garments?
Yeah, so a lot of products, there were a couple of main paths that we found our partners who we work with. One of them is that a lot of product gets donated, but it tends to get donated overseas. And there are a number of issues there in that a lot of markets that are receiving products, it's becoming waste there and it's hurting actually their own economies. We have a report that's coming up in the fall around where we had commissioned a piece to get written about what's actually happening down in the secondhand supply chain, because a lot of people, there is value. I don't want to negate all value because there's some really good value in donating, especially if it can get used in your local economy. But when things start to go overseas, it causes a lot more problems than we realize. And there's a little bit of a misnomer that like, we're doing good, but actually what's happening is it's sort of helping us perpetuate more waste, right? Like it's just ending up somewhere else. And then a lot of brands were destroying products. So they would landfill it or incinerate it. There's also lots of creative ways with employee sales and local sales and things like that. But at the end of the day, there's really no, like not a really viable long-term sustainable way of handling this. I think the big thing I come back to when we talk about like zero waste is a really important theme, especially as we're talking about it during these sessions that you're doing. But there's also this link to carbon and climate change that we need to talk about. And that is, this is the business model as it is. We keep making new things. We keep creating carbon. And what a lot of companies are trying to do is decarbonize that red line there in a way of like new materials or renewable energy in the supply chain. And all of that is really important and good and needs to be done. In addition, what we see is that as a brand starts to adjust their sales channels, and well, if they can start to make less new product, that's another strategy for getting their carbon down and then renewing more product and that they've already made. And that could be a factor in helping really move the needle a lot more drastically on reducing one's carbon. Yeah, and then I think I wanted to close in this idea of like, what is my, and we'll get into discussion, and I'm happy to jump into more things, but what's possible? And we really think that the most important thing is use what's already here. When you renew something, we're extending the life of a product that exists. We don't have to make another one. And only truly when the product's at the end of its life cycle should it then be turned into a new material. There's a lot of conversations happening right now where people are like, oh, well, I could just move this product straight into recycle. And I think that that causes a lot of issues, because then it's seen as like, oh, I can keep doing like business as usual over here and create waste, because then I can just recycle it over here. And what we need to really address is the business as usual. And we have to change the business as usual. And only when a product's at the end of its life, then we do have an option for it to go into something else. And ideally it is new raw materials. And that happens in some places. We have one of our partners, Koyuchi, who is a home goods company. So they make all organic cotton bedding and sheets and towels and things like that. And we were able to take their recycle product. So, you know, torn sheets, a really dirty dog runs on the bed with its muddy paws kind of thing. That product we sent to a recycler, and they were able to shred the cotton, spin it with some new organic cotton as well. So it was 50-50 blend of recycled and new, and they created a new product out of it. And that was, in my mind, exactly the right flow. We pull out everything we can renew and resell, and then we're only sending to recycle the really damaged items. So maybe I'll stop there, and we can get into questions.
Yeah, I guess to follow up with your comment about like the used materials, is that something you're looking to do at some point where there's, because I think most of the products you said are new or just barely used. There's still a lot of life left in it. What about something that's been used for a little while, but kind of like at a thrift store where there's still life left in it? Are you looking at any of that for processing, or do you feel like there's already systems there in place, like a thrift store, to handle some of that?
Oh, great question. So we do handle products of various quality types, and then the brands sell them at different price points. So for example, the North Face sells basically two quality tiers, a like new and then like a reconditioned line that has some, it'll have some like a little bit of wear on it, and maybe a replacement where it doesn't match, right? The buttons don't match or the snaps don't match, that kind of thing. But the idea is that, yeah, a brand can have multiple sort of values. So you could go to the brand and buy everything from them at once. And they're only controlling the products that they have in their ecosystem. So it's sort of like existing alongside thrift stores that happen when people are emptying out their closets and selling stuff there.
Okay. And then do you sell everything through your site that you process, or do you also have, do people go to the brands themselves and look for the renewed website or the store that's there?
So when we first started the company, we built out a marketplace to showcase all of the brands who are interested in renewed. And over time, brands were like, oh, this is great. And actually, I do want to own this whole experience myself and have it branded. So we've evolved in what we do. Actually, our main business is to build websites for the brands that they own and manage themselves. So we'll do the fulfillment and operations. But if you go to the site, the North Face Renewed, it's a North Face experience that you're having. And we have other brands like Tommy Hilfiger and Velocio and Koyuchi, and they all have their own sites that we manage.
Have you run across any studies about like how much clothes get used, like how much wear gets put on clothes? I was just curious. Always feels like if I looked at my closet, like how many of the things that I actually wear and use to its end of life, or did I never actually get? I had so many different clothing options that I never really wore out clothes. I wasn't sure if that's pretty common or not.
Yeah, actually, there's some really good research, and I am blanking on the details, so maybe I'll follow up with you
Okay.
and you could share it. But
Yep.
we did a project. It was called Wear, actually, and we contributed some clothes to it. And they looked at like, yeah, how much are people wearing the clothes that they have? And you can imagine, like, it's not as much as we think, because we also own a lot more clothes than we have in the past. But there is, and there's a lot of pressure put on fast fashion, because people can basically like buy something, wear it, and then be done with it. It can just be a one-time thing. And that's where what's really exciting is where rental business models and the circular economy come into play, because I use them all the time, or I did before COVID, but I go to a wedding and I didn't want to buy a new dress, but I could rent one. And even in the winter time, I was sort of like, oh, I don't want to buy new sweaters, but I wouldn't mind new sweaters for this season. So I rented sweaters for the winter, and then I could return them in the spring.
Nice. What's the plan, I guess, going forward for the Renewal Workshop? So you've expanded into Europe with the Amsterdam location. That's pretty exciting. And then, are you just looking to build out more brands, or is there other pathways you're looking to expand to?
Yeah, I think our vision is to see a world where every brand in the apparel and textile industry operates like the car industry, where you've got new and pre-owned certified living next to each other. And that just becomes the normal for the industry. And so if you love a company and want to buy their product, but you may not want to buy new anymore, rather than like filtering through a thrift store, you can go directly to that brand and you get kind of a guarantee behind the product. I'm really excited and encouraged that more and more companies in this space are starting to look at this in a serious way and say, how can we actually shift into a new type of business model? Because we can't keep going down the path that we're on right now. It is not sustainable, and there's a lot of risk to the companies. And obviously there's huge risk to our planet if we just keep making more stuff. So my vision is more and more brands in this space and serving those brands.
Nice. I like the way you said that, kind of as an analogy to the car, of kind of like pre-owned certified. Because I think that's what you're providing basically, is saying, we've checked it over, it's good to go, it's usable, almost like new, because we've gone through and checked for everything and cleaned it up and made it ready for use. It's not just like, here you go, good luck, I hope it worked out for you. You've really thoroughly kind of checked it over. And I know you collect a lot of information and data about every piece of article and clothing that comes through there, and how much, little things need to be touched up on each thing. So
yeah, so maybe I can touch on that a little bit. So one of the things that we were very curious about is like, why are things here? Like, what are the reasons why things are considered not sellable again or not usable again? And so we collect all that information for our brand partners, and we're able to give it back to them per style number. So they can say, okay, this sweatshirt, these are the reasons, or these are the issues that were on them, and this is what we had to do to make it sellable again. And some things are things you can't control, like, spaghetti stains and all that human experience, life stuff.
yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff where it's like, hey, yeah, there was a zipper failure, or there was a consistent button failure, or there's a pilling fabric failure. And those issues then become great feedback loops for the brands to say, okay, yeah, maybe we made a decision in the design stage to put a lighter weight zipper on this jacket, but now it's causing us, it's a huge cost to us and the ability to resell it again. So maybe we're going to spend a little more at the beginning, but now we've created a whole new inventory of product down the road.
Yeah, the life cycle cost versus the piece part cost of that zipper, that, oh, we save 3 cents on every zipper, but now we're spending it on the back end with warranty and processing and, dissatisfied customers. And it wasn't worth that 3 cent savings after all.
Totally. Yeah.
What about like partnership with other agencies or government entities or communities? I mean, do you have any goals or ideas around how that could be enhanced? Or if someone was watching this that was in one of those groups, who would you like to better connect with, or where do you think some progress could be made there?
Oh, that's great. It's interesting, and most of my career has been just in the business sector, and so I was always focused on business to business, or maybe there's some nonprofits in our space, or the supply chain. And in the last year, especially with COVID, because we could do more things online, I've been learning a lot more about different government agencies who have agendas around waste and are looking to do more strategic partnerships. I believe strongly that the movement, if we are going to accelerate this movement, it has to come from policy changes. There's been a lot of talk about extended producer responsibility for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of waiting that, oh, the industry is going to solve this themselves. But I do feel like there needs to be some more push this way. Being in Europe and seeing there's a lot more, it isn't at the regulation stage, but it's at sort of the suggestion stage from the EU around circular, and that this is where things are going. And that, I mean, the municipalities can't keep absorbing the cost to handle the waste that gets created when there was no thought. There was just the thought, I'm going to make this and it'll be somebody else's problem. And I think there's a point in which there needs to be a lot more realization that, yeah, we need to start to hold accountable what we make.
Yeah, so what could the individuals watching this video, what can they do to help support this, you know, as individuals? Obviously going to the site and checking out some of the brands and looking at some of the options you've got there, but anything else they can do is, you know, to push or help support some of the things you're trying to drive?
Yeah, I think it's my first thing is like start with you. Like what are you already doing, or what is new for you and what you heard today, right? Maybe it was, you're like, I had no idea clothing, like if I donate something, it isn't getting used. It's like, no, it's like 80% of what we're giving we're donating can't get used. And so what do you do with the things in your home, and can I give it back to the brand? So very much like reaching out, emailing, holding the brands that you engage with accountable for, like, are you thinking about it? Will you take your products back when I'm done with it? I think starting to mount some consumer pressure in this space is really important. The other one is supporting extended producer responsibility legislation if it's coming through. I mean, we just passed some stuff here in Oregon, and it was related to more like packaging and improving our recycling, but it did start to move some of the costs of managing product back onto the maker of the product. It's not so much about buying used. It's because that's an individual impact. It's like, how are we influencing the brands to make less? And if we say to the brands, like, I want to buy used from you, I don't want to buy new, I want to see you guys starting to really decrease your carbon or decrease your waste. Those are the kinds of things that need to get communicated to these companies so that they start to make changes.
Okay, so how can someone get a hold of you and learn more about Renewal Workshop or contact you?
Great. Yeah. So I would highly encourage you to check out all of the brands who partner with us. So if you go to renewalworkshop.com, you'll be able to link through to our marketplace and see that. We also have partners who have their own sites, like the North Face, Coyuchi, Velocio. If you're in Europe, it's Tommy Hilfiger has a site over there, as well as the North Face in Germany. And then you can find us on the socials at Renewal Workshop. And yeah, that's where we are. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Nicole. I really appreciate your time, and it was good hearing and learning more about your organization, and thanks for all the work you've done.
My pleasure. Great to be here.
Yep.
Please join the conversation, which will continue in the comments section. So please don't be shy, whether you have one question or 10, whether you represent a business or government or community, we all have ideas and connections to offer. This Low waste and low consumption lifestyle is for everybody. Working together and doing our part will have lasting positive impacts on our planet and livability. You can help waste-free advocates in whatever way you like, from financial support to joining our board of volunteers. Visit wastefreeadvocates.org for links, and please follow, like, share, and subscribe to Waste Free Advocates to receive notifications of our events and future episodes of the Zero Waste video series that you won't want to miss. We hope to inspire you to inspire others through your positive influence. And remember that when you share what you know and who you know, you multiply the good that you do.
So thank you for tuning in, and keep being an advocate for change in your local community.